Welcome back. Let's continue with the reaction to the cabinet reshuffle last night, and we must find out also from young people how they feel about the changes that the president made. Let's bring the youth capital project leader Kristal Duncan-Williams now to talk about how young people have reacted to the changes the president has made. Thank you for making time, Kristal. I really appreciate your time. So how do young people feel about the reshuffle? Is the new cabinet representative of young people?
Clement, I think the resounding answer from social media over the course of the last few hours has been no. Young people want to know where's the youth representation. At Youth Day, the president said that young people need to step and start taking action for themselves. And young people are saying, how can we take that action if we aren't given a seat at the table? Why do we have all of these ministers? Why are ministers given, these indefinite terms, or even a president has a limit into how many years they can serve as the president? Why do ministers also not have a limit? Why are we shuffling people around without qualifications, without expertise? People that have been embroiled in corruption sagas are still there. These are some of the comments coming through from young people on social media today.
Yeah, and young people have always said nothing for us without us. What would you say are the consequences of having these old people really lead in these critical positions without fresh blood? Because many of them don't even surround themselves with young people who are innovative, who've got fresh ideas. What are the consequences of having such old people continue to lead in such critical positions on young people themselves who are facing so many challenges?
We need to look at the crisis of youth unemployment as a challenge that our country faces. If we do not disrupt this extreme increase in youth unemployment, we will continue to have intergenerational poverty, because for the next generation, they will still be in a terrible position because we haven't fixed the problem in this moment now. And so what we've seen youth unemployment rate continue to rise over more than 10, going on 12 years now. The rate has continued to climb. And at Youth Capital, we believe there are two reasons for this. One, that young people have not consulted and continue not to be consulted when solutions are developed. And two, that there isn't a collective and shared agenda for how to address youth unemployment that all sectors can get behind, both government and the private sector, and young people themselves. And without these two key things, we'll continue to make the same mistakes. As you say, a lot of these ministers have no idea what it's like to be a young person in 2021. And even if you are a young person living in central Joburg is very different to a young person, living in a rural area in KZN or in the Eastern Cape. Young people are a heterogeneous group, and we need to recognize that and start hearing from all young people about what they believe are the solutions to the problems that they face, that they live day to day.
How can young people disrupt this? Because some are starting political parties, but that's more of long game, right? I've seen a lot of political parties that have been started by young people, but that's a long game. How do we disrupt this and start pushing for the current government to start recognizing young people in critical positions?
We've seen that when young people do rally behind an issue like the Fees Must Fall movement, and make their voices heard, that action is taken. And we don't have to be as extreme as the Must Fall movement, but what young people can do is ask the hard questions. We have the municipal elections coming up. We have some independent candidates there. You can start at the local level. Who are you voting for as a young person, and why are you voting for that person? We need to start asking critical questions of government. For too long, government has gotten away with out-reporting on its progress. If you take, for example, the National Youth Policy, we just had a new one launched in March this year, but the previous policy had no report on the gains or the outcomes of what was done under the term of that policy. And young people should be making a noise about that, saying to government what was done. There's always a lot of fanfare when a policy is accepted and tabled and comes into existence, but what after that? And young people need to start asking those questions, and we at Youth Capital create many platforms for young people to have those conversations and to hear from them what they think government should be reporting on, and to try to say to government, this is what you should be doing, and this is how we need to include young people in that. So young people need to continue to ask those questions, and we at Youth Capital will continue to provide platforms for them to do that.
Yeah, here's what also has become a problem, Kristal. The political system is designed and the way the ANC has been running government over the last 27 years, it's mostly been about the patronage system. So they're bringing in people, some you will argue, and we've seen, have not been competent for jobs, but they were brought in because they represented a particular faction or another stakeholder, a grouping in the ANC. An argument people have made is, sure, you're asking the president to appoint young people to cabinet, but is there a pool of young people in the ANC that the president can trust, right? Given the experience that he's had with other people, that he's given a chance, that the ANC government has given a chance, whether you're talking at local government through the positions of MMCs, MECs. What are your thoughts as Youth Capital Project on young people that are within the ANC? Do you have confidence that they are competent enough and can be trusted?
Well, I think, if you look at all the political parties, we sometimes see, the shining rising star of one or two young people stepping up. But I think overall, in terms of public facing, the ministers or possible ministers or people with potential, from a public facing point of view, we don't really see any of them stepping up. Yet in our circles and our conversations, I've seen and met some amazing young people. And so, it kind of makes you question, what is the pipeline for a young person who has the right expertise, who has the drive, ambition, the innovative ideas? How do they go being that young person, just on social media with these ideas, for example, all the way through actually having a seat at the parliamentary table? And I think that while we know that the ANC is going to be the ruling party, majority party probably for some time, I don't expect that that's going to be disrupted massively. I am encouraged, as you say, by even if there's one seat by a youth party that comes to the table, that's one more seat that a young person has. And so I think young people are more of the mind of creating new spaces for themselves where they can be those running the show, then subscribing to institutions like the ANC, which has a long history that may be very difficult to navigate. And as you said, there's alliances that go back decades. And young people, I think, are getting tired of that and saying we want to do something different completely, and as you said, that is a long game, but we have to start somewhere. If we don't start now, we're going to be having these same conversations 10 years from now. So I think it's encouraging that young people are starting to step up. We also have a few young people who are saying, how do I start a political party, how do I do this well, how do I get support? And so it's great that young people are asking those questions, and we need to support them in that.
So the fact that we're not represented, young people in cabinet, doesn't mean we can't get those that have been elected to really focus on the challenges that young people are facing. So please, Kristal, speak to those uncle and aunties and grandmothers and grandfathers. What are the challenges of young people today? What should they be prioritizing?
So things that we focused on this year, as I said, there are 10 points in the action plan, but something that's very top of mind for Youth Capital is one, certification, and particularly second chance programs. So young people who are trying to access matric, which we know is there's such a market difference between people who have a matric and people who don't in terms of accessing employment. So how are we supporting those young people? We shouldn't be telling them that they're failures. We should be saying to them, how can we help you? How can we help you study and prepare for those exams? What resources do you need? And then when we look at young people who are looking for work, the cost of job seeking is astronomical. In 2019, a study put it at up to $900 a month young people are spending on job seeking. What are some of the innovative ways you can hire young people? So this is to businesses out there. How can you, use WhatsApp, the WhatsApp bots that have been developed by organizations to sort through CVs, to do first round interviews? This saves time for the employer, and it saves costs for young people in traveling to interviews. So let's think about innovations around that. And then lastly, the big drive by government in terms of employment creation for young people are public works opportunities, and most recently the Basic Education Employment Initiative. Young people are very disheartened by the fact that these contracts were only 3 to 4 months, and actually they never really got much training in that time, or significant training that they can use towards accessing a next opportunity. So if government is going to be spending 7 billion on a project like that, then how do we make that money really work as a stepping stone for young people? And again, we need to talk to young people, and need to talk to civil society. Programs that have been implementing this kind of thing for years were not consulted, and they have the expertise, and they have programs that really work for young people. How do we put that money to good use using what we already know?
Kristal, listen, I would pay lots of money to have people like you occupy positions like the Ministry of Youth, and not some grandmothers and grandfathers who are still in certain positions that they've completely failed in. Thank you so much for making time and articulating the issues of young people so effectively. Capital Project Lead at Youth Capital, Kristal Duncan-Williams. Now, Business Unity South Africa is welcoming last night's cabinet